Hey everybody, and welcome to our second live of the month on navigating through change with myself, Paul Smith. And we had an absolutely fantastic live last week with Ronak Faisal. For all those who caught it, if you haven't caught it, watch it on the replay. It was absolutely fantastic. She talked about how faith and using faith can help us navigate through these times of uncertainty. If you're tuned in, please say hi. Let me know you're here. We'll give a couple of minutes to see if we have anybody tune in to this before we dive into my topic today, which is improvise, adapt, and overcome, how we can start to change with change. And I'm going to introduce 5 concepts, 5 principles, 5 elements, however you want to look at it or perceive them, just 5 thoughts on how we can start to navigate better through these times of uncertainty. And I'll share some personal stories that have helped me in these times. Priya's here. Priya says, hi everyone. It's wonderful to see you here, Priya. Priya says, Ronak's session was amazing and lots of wisdom shared there was. There was some really good stuff coming in from the audience too. Some great questions being asked, some great thoughts being shared, some great personal experiences. And it was a really deep talk on faith and whether we have faith in something externally, something bigger than ourselves, or if we just have faith in ourselves, how either or can really help us move forward and drive forward. So I'm going to take it a little bit less spiritual, maybe a bit more practical, a little bit more philosophical as well, a little bit more depth as well, to think about how we can start to navigate through change and start to look at things slightly different and change our perspective on what's going on for us right now. So if you haven't already checked Ronak's session out, it was absolutely fantastic. I'm going to take a little different take on it today. So I'm going to give a couple minutes. While we're waiting for people to tune in, we just want to ask the question so I can get a feel for what's going on for you right now. What has changed in your life in 2020? Let me know what's changed for you this year. Just drop it in the comments box. I'm going to write it for anybody who's tuning in late. What has changed for you in 2020? So the topic of today is learning to change with change, how to improvise, how to adapt, so we can overcome whatever's faced with us in life. But I just want to know before we dive into the 5 concepts that I have is what has changed for you in 2020? So for me, so much has changed. So I'll just talk a bit about me while we're waiting for people to put in their answers and questions. So for me, I decided to leave my job in November 2019 and start up Coaching Minds and some other projects outside of Coaching Minds. And then obviously this all hit, the pandemic hit. So it's been a bit of a challenge for me, but I'm now here in Coaching Minds full time, operating what I can and leading this fantastic team and this fantastic family. So for me, it's a huge change from going into a corporate job full time into managing Coaching Minds and the vision and everything that we have here. I'm also currently in Colombia. It's a big change for me. I'm living out in Colombia at the moment. Not too sure how long I'll be here. Again, it's uncertain on the length of time, but something else that's changed for me. So a lot of things are changing in my life, but I'd love to hear from you. What's changed for you this year? Hey Adele, it's fantastic to see you here. Thank you so much for tuning in. What's changed for you in 2020? Are you spending more time indoors? Has lockdown forced you to change the look of your house? What have you been doing in 2020? What's changed for you? Let me know in the comments box. So another thing for me, a big thing that's changed is my mindset. We talked about mindsets last month and we looked at fixed mindset, growth mindset, and the concept of getting into a flow mindset. So for me, one big change is my mindset and how I look at everything and how I remind myself to always look at things from more than one point of view. And just try and play that role of observer. So don't be shy, tell me what's changed for you this year, what's new. Priya says, a lot for me, biggest was myself and how I look at things. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Priya. It's good that you change yourself and how you look at things. And it doesn't have to be positive things. So what's changed is what's changed for you. And have you lost a job? Have you had to make a move? What big changes has 2020 forced you to have? Sabina's here. Thank you so much for tuning in, Sabina. It's wonderful to see you here. Thank you for your time and your energy and your commitment. Adele says, so much changed. I relocated, did a certification course, absolutely became more positive. That's amazing, Adele. You've gone through a huge change. You moved from near Cape Town to Johannesburg, which is a hell of a distance and a whole new environment and a whole new change for you. So thank you for sharing that. And it's great that you did a certification program as well and you've become a certified coach. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's good that you're becoming more positive. And I've seen that in some of your lives and some of the stuff that you've shared and the wisdom that you kind of put out there. It's fantastic that you're looking at everything in such a positive light. And to quote you, from one negative, there's 1,000 positives, Adele Jacobs. So it's fantastic. So if you're tuned in, let me know. If you're watching the replay, what has changed for you this year? What big life changes have you gone through? What small changes have you gone through? Has anything changed this year? Or have you kind of just shut yourself off from what's going on and kept yourself to yourself? I want this to be a bit interactive. I want us to have a discussion on change. So today's topic is, whilst I'm talking, feel free to put that in the comments box, what's changing for you. But the topic is improvise, adapt, and overcome. How to change with change. And this comes from one of the quotes and affirmations I always keep in mind whenever I look at change, whenever I think about change, and if I reflect on change. I always keep this affirmation in mind. And it's a quote from Bruce Lee that is, to change with change is to change this state. And if you did my first meditation in our meditation library, you'll see that I talk about this briefly in meditation, so we can start to think about how we can change with change. How do we adapt? So whenever I'm thinking about change, whenever I'm thinking about uncertainty, whenever I want to navigate or change perspective, I always remind myself to change with change. These new life events are coming, this is new change, I'm going to have to change. When something else changes, you've got to adapt with that. So just keeping that in mind is the key. So Priya says, I had to cancel a trip, join Coaching Minds and start to build an online family. Yes, of course, the coaching course. That's fantastic, Priya. Apologies, I'm sorry to see it here that you had to cancel your trip. Where was your trip to? Yeah, I had like 6 cancelled flights to get to Colombia as well. So I could feel you there and resonate with that. So Frank Adams says the birth of our first grandchild, Audrey, and she's absolutely beautiful. It's congratulations, Frank and Paula, on your first grandchild. The pictures that you shared have been so beautiful and so cute. So it's great news. So it's a great change for you this year. Such positive change. Sabina says, I dived deep into personal development with the help of Coaching Minds. First live webinar got me out of my comfort zone, completed the gratitude course, and now on the certification course. That's fantastic, Sabina. Thank you so much for sharing that. So a lot of growth, a lot of good things are happening in this times of uncertainty. And you guys, you're learning, you're sharing some great tips already on how you've navigated and how you've kept that positive perspective when going through change. So what do we think? So those of you who aren't feeling positive, or people right now who aren't feeling positive in their life, maybe suffering, maybe have a little bit of pain, what do we think is the number one cause of suffering right now with what's going on? What do we think is the number one cause? So Della says, I changed careers too, found out what my health issue is, I became more flexible and adaptable. It's fantastic you're getting into the topic of the content today, and it's good to hear that you found out what your health issue is and that you can adapt around that. And sorry to hear that you've got a health issue as well, but it's great that you have that mindset and you're being flexible and adaptable. and a big career change. Priya says New York, COVID had different plans. Yeah, and every day delay, it does have a blessing. So one day you will get to New York when the time is right for you, Priya. But I'm sorry to hear that your trip. I'm hoping that your trip and your plans to New York is just delayed, and you're not going to give up on whatever it is you were setting out to achieve. So Adele says, I accepted personal circumstances, but did not let it push me down or backwards. Now, that's fantastic, Adele. It reminds me of a quote by Denzel Washington. If you're going to fall forward. Don't let it go backwards, don't let it push you down. If you're going to fall forward. So for those of you who are tuning in, we're just talking about the changes that are happening in our life, how we feel about them. Some people are sharing their perspectives and how they've grown through it. It's absolutely fantastic. But what do we think is the number one cause? Why are we suffering right now in these times of uncertainty? What's your thoughts? For those people who are suffering. And we've all suffered at some point to some extent this year. What's going on has affected everybody around the globe. And with a perspective, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of pain, people losing jobs, being made redundant, people losing friends, family. There's a lot of negativity in the world, there's a lot of pain and suffering. And it's a lot for us to carry. But if we just change our little perspective and we look at it slightly differently, it's bringing us together. There's so much goodness and greatness coming from what's going on right now. We're being forced into it, but it's forcing us to be more unified. It's forcing us to come together. I always remember always remember having philosophical talks and discussions to people. And if you think about it in terms of humans and how we always have to kind of be forced to come together for unity if something's bigger than what we've got going on. And it used to be, if aliens came and took over the world, hypothetically speaking here, then that's when the world would become united. So for me, it's bringing people, if you look at it from a different perspective, what's happening right now is it's encouraging people to think differently. There's so much creativity going on. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's bringing people together. It really is. It's helping us come together as one. So Sabina says, yes, learning a lot more, positive changes, inner growth, and accepting my authentic self fully. That's absolutely beautiful, Sabina. You've really, so much growth this year. It's absolutely fantastic. Adele says, fear of the unknown and viewing a reset needed as a negative. That's two good points. A lot of us won't take that, hit that reset button to recharge. We constantly think that we need to be in go mode, and the reset is a negative thing. That's a good point to share there, Adele. The fear of the unknown, that can cause pain and suffering. Well, who else? What else are your thoughts? What do you think is the number one cause of pain and suffering right now? What does fear of the unknown cause us to do? So the number one, fear of the unknown, failing to reset is another negative one. But the number one cause of pain right now is that failure to adapt, that failure to change. Sabina says, coping with change, and I'm happy that I'm now learning together with Coaching Minds family. Always grateful for that. And we're so grateful for you, Sabina, and how far you've come and your growth. It's been absolutely fantastic. And everything you shared, your life, your wisdom, webinars that you've done in Coaching Minds, really appreciate that. The number one pain at the moment is failing to adapt. We're spending so much of our time trying to hold on to everything, rather than letting go and learn to let go and looking at the opportunities in front of us. We walk around just picking things up. Just going to start picking things up. We just grab this, we pick this up, we pick that up, we pick this, and we get this. And then all of a sudden we're just walking around life like constantly with all this stuff mentally in our mind. And we fail to let go. And we don't want to let go of certain things. And it's the number one cause. So I don't want to turn this into a business session, but if you look and analyze businesses right now, businesses that are failing, businesses that are being closed down, are those that are failing to adapt. It's those that are failing to do things differently, to create new processes, to understand that because the world's changed, your customers have changed. Because your customers have changed, their needs have changed. So then, therefore, your business has to change, and what you deliver has to change. But I don't want to make it into a business session. If you think about that as a person, because of what's happening, your needs have changed. The needs of your friends and family, the needs of those around you have changed. So how do you change with that change? And one of the things to keep in mind, the affirmation I mentioned at the beginning, is that to change with change is change of state. How do you adapt to the new environment around you? So being allowance is letting go and being grateful for what we have at this present moment. It's so important. The art of letting go and staying focused on what we do have, but not becoming attached, just being grateful for it. So this holding on, whenever we hold on to things, we're causing self-suffocation. If you just think about holding your breath, like if you hold your breath now for 10, 15 seconds, how does that make you feel? Adele says we create blocks due to fear and miss opportunities that is open for us. Flexibility and adaptability is crucial. It is. Flexibility and adaptability is crucial. And it does. We talked about mindsets last time, and we do create our own blocks. We see something in the path and we give up. I was out with a friend the other day, and we were in a supermarket, and we wanted to get a drink, and there was a set of ladders in front of the fridge. And I asked him, "What would you want from, what drink do you want?" And says, "Oh, it doesn't matter. We can't get it because the ladder's in the way." So automatically he blocked and created this block in himself because there was a set of ladders in the way. So I just went up, I moved the ladders, I went in the fridge, I said, "What do you want?" Like, it's simple, but I'm just using this as an example because it was something I witnessed last week and experienced last week. We do that with everything. We see something being in the way and we think, "Oh, I can't have that. That's in the way." Rather than thinking, "Let's just move that." So sorry, that was a good point. It's a bit off topic in terms of navigating the change, but it's back on the mindsets. But just when you see the obstacles, look at how you can move it. Anything's possible. You've just got to change the way you look at it and change the angle at which you approach it. Prayer says seeing things differently and in positive perspective. Now that's absolutely fantastic. So what happens when you hold your breath? So for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, the longer you hold it, it feels uncomfortable, it feels suffocating. So why do we do that with our thoughts? Why do we hold on to our thoughts and the negative feedback we receive or the bad remarks? Why do we gather it all and walk around carrying it? So one of the things, the first concept of today is understanding that pain and suffering and self-suffocation is caused by us trying to hold on to everything and not learning the art of letting go. So concept one is understanding to let go. The second concept I want to bring into the session, which I didn't have planned, it was just, I was at an EMCC Global Summit last week and there was a speech, and I can't remember the lady's name, but she was talking about this concept of intellectual humility. So the second concept I want to bring in for you today to think about is intellectual humility. What do we think intellectual humility is? I'm going to tell you a little bit about it in a second. Adele Jacobs says you become anxious. You do, you become anxious as well when you hold your breath. So point one is to understand the art of letting go, and the more we try and hold on to things, the more we actually self-suffocate ourselves. The second point is this concept of intellectual humility. What do we think intellectual humility is, and how do you think that will help us navigate through change? So I'll tell you what it's not. So this concept of intellectual humility is not about how humble we are. I'm going to just read Praise comment here. Based on my observation, people find it difficult to adapt to change, especially when it has been a habit for a long time. I also saw people who are in personal development adapt easily. Yeah, we can adapt, and personal development does help us grow, but we need to be in flow with our personal development. Sometimes we can invest in ourselves for a short period of time, a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe a year, and then we stop because we think that we've learned it all, we think that we know it all. We don't understand that we constantly change, and the biggest achievement we can make in life is self-actualization. But that journey to self-actualization, we can never reach. It's just about becoming better and better and better and learning and unlearning and unlearning and continuously growing ourselves. There's no limit to our growth. So personal development really helps, and people who are in that journey right now can adapt a lot better because they're in a place of mindset. I don't want to go into mindfulness habits and keep it high level, but it's a really good point that you make there, Priya. Yeah, it can cause depression and anxiety holding on to things for too long. It causes us so much pain. And we gather lots of it, then it becomes heavy and uncomfortable. And sometimes we just need to let it go. But let's move on to the second topic of intellectual humility. So intellectual humility is not about how humble we are as a person, how modest we are. It's not realizing how much we're achieving or anything like that. This concept of intellectual humility that was introduced at the AMCC Global Summit was this concept that understanding that you've achieved great things in life. So think about the things that you've achieved, things that you've done or accomplished. It's understanding that. So you could be Richard Branson of Virgin, you could be Mark Zuckerberg, you could be one of the biggest business leaders in the world right now, Steve Jobs, when he was alive. So you could be one of the biggest people in the world. But intellectual humility is understanding that, okay, I've achieved this, and this, but this is new. So it's not getting caught up on all your achievements and I can do this, I can manage this, I can get through this. Intellectual humility is about not having that mentality of I get through this is not going to affect my business, this is not going to affect my life, this is not going to get to me. That's not an intellectual humility. Intellectual humility is having the ability to understand that this is different, this is going to require me to think differently, this is going to require me to learn something new and start at the beginning or start a bit less. But it's having that humility to understand that you need to learn something new and not let yourself block yourself by thinking it's not going to affect me. I've achieved this, I've achieved that. I can get through this. Intellectual humility is about looking at it and thinking this is new, this is a different level of understanding, and I need to learn this. So Frank Adams has said intellectual humility is recognizing that we always need to be in learning mode. We don't know it all. That's perfect, Frank. It's a really good way to sum that up. And you can introduce this form of, I see people not having intellectual, it's easy to give examples of when people don't have intellectual humility than when they do. And I see this all the time with people who are younger, people who have that blocker and that lack to say, because I'm older and more experienced than you, I know more than you, no matter what that subject is. So that's an example of somebody who doesn't have intellectual humility. It's someone that's not willing to be able or understand that this is new to them, there's learning, and the person that's providing that learning, although they might be younger or of a different background, they're the ones that are teaching you and helping you in that area. So it is about having that mind of always being open to learn. And this concept of intellectual humility and having that mindset, all that perspective to always learn and look at things, it's just coming to that understanding that the way the world is right now, everything is new. People are moving to online for whatever it is they're doing, and how do you adapt and how do you learn? Dale Jacobs says open-mindedness is a big key behind intellectual humility. So I just thought it was a really good concept to bring in. It was at a leadership talk, but I think everybody, whether you're a leader, whether you're looking at things yourself, whatever it is you do, I think this concept of intellectual humility is such a growth point. Being able to understand no matter what you've achieved, no matter what you've done, what's happening in the world right now is very different, and it requires a different perspective and a different approach. And if a lot of us have been in lockdown, there's so much learning in lockdown. If you think like, okay, we've been stuck in our house, but if you're coming to the realization that you don't like being stuck in your own home, then there's learning behind that either you're not happy with the habits that you have in your home, you're not happy with your home's environment, and that gives you the opportunity in that space to change it. Redecorate your home, rearrange your home, change your habits. Okay, some of us might prefer to get out and really experience and socialize, but it teaches us to learn to be grateful for our home, that we've got a home. If we're in lockdown and we have a home, the first thing is we need to be grateful that we had that. So there was a lot of learning in lockdown, and those who struggled in lockdown were those who were feeling to adapt with what's going on. So again, concept one was changing, learn to let go and change. Concept two is that concept of intellectual humility and changing perspective and always being open to learn and understanding that this requires something different. The third thing that's helped me personally, so this is my perspective, the first principle here, is understanding, and it's really helped me navigate through everything that's going on right now, is understanding that life is designed to be played. Life is designed to be played. What I mean by this is if you think about the things you enjoy in life, things that you really enjoy, music, dancing, sports, all the stuff that we really enjoy, we play. You don't work a guitar, you don't work a piano, you don't work a keyboard, you don't work football, you play football, you don't work golf, you play golf, whatever sport you're interested, you play. Life is designed in very much the same way, but so many of us have that perspective that we need to work at life rather than play life, and we actually cause blocks by doing that. And I did a post the other day on Instagram that life is like a dance, and we need to learn to move with its rhythm, share moments with other people, but most of all, enjoy it. And just by having that perspective of how we can begin to play life rather than work at life can open up new angles of thought and reflection. Rosie Prasad has said, agree with you, they say it's years of experience. Yet people think because they've got life experience that they can block themselves and lack intellectual humility. And you should be open to learn from anybody and everybody, regardless of what you've achieved. So generally those that lack intellectual humility are those that look down on people and see themselves above everybody else. They're quite easy to spot. So they're the people that really struggle with intellectual humility. Adele says we must be actively curious. Being actively curious is a big help in this. What can we learn? What can I get from this? What is the learning? But that concept of when we start to play life, and what I mean by play life is just enjoy it, play it, practice it, it becomes natural. If you think about how when you learn to play a music instrument or a sport, how at first it becomes a little bit different. And I honestly think that journey of spirituality, personal growth, investing in ourselves is that start to understanding that life is here. We play life, we don't work life. Because at first it's difficult, it's uncomfortable, you've got to practice. We talk about those 4 stages of psychological competency. We would do that in a broad sense of life. We eventually become confident with everything we need to, all these tools and tips to help us grow. But the more we just learn, the more we just flow, the more we just enjoy life with the little things that we have, the more we learn just to play it and be in tune with it and go with the flow. I don't want to take it too spiritual, but you can feel in certain areas of your life if there's resistance. from whatever it is you're trying to achieve, whatever it is you're trying to learn, whatever it is you're trying to do. Sometimes you can feel that resistance, but we still try and push through. We still try and push through. And consistency is great, but when you start to understand your energy, sometimes we just need to adapt, we need to change, we need to improvise. And okay, the end result's still the same, but I'm not going to still try and push this way. I still have this vision. Maybe I just need to go around it. Maybe I need to come from it at a different angle. Maybe I need to go with the force. You know, we can fall into a habit of when we're trying to achieve things, when one door is closed, we can sit there, we can bang on the door, we can sit in front of the door, and we think this is the only door that we want to get through, and it's the only way to where we want to go. And because we're too busy banging on this door, or we're sitting in a soak outside of this door, or waiting patiently, we forget to realize that there's 3 open doors behind us, or 5 open doors behind us. So concept 3 is learning that life is here to be played, like a musical instrument, like a sport. It's here to be played, not to be worked. The 4th concept that helped me navigate through change massively is, we talk about energy management at times, but more your focus. So where you put your focus right now, and how you change your perspective on how you put your focus and where you put your focus. So how many of us focus too much on what's happening right now? I see it all the time when I have conversations. So many people are putting focus into talks about the pandemic, what's going on, take carries the topic of conversation. It's hard to get away because the media puts it out there, but we can choose to focus on it and we can choose to focus on something else. And for me, if you've got a vision, if you've got a goal that's bigger than what's going on, then you can focus on that. And if you're focused on a vision, you almost forget that there's a pandemic going on in the world. Now, like for me, I don't focus on it. I'm very, for me, there's been a few changes, a few things that's happened, a few things that's occurred, but I don't, any focus that I want to put on it, I turn away and I don't focus. It's like almost like it's not happening. And if you're worried, if you're in that stage where you're worried about what's going on right now, you're feeling a bit of fear, a bit afraid, then one of the things that can really help you get through it is this is not the first pandemic we've had. This is not the first disease that we've been hit with. You look at some research, just do some quick Googling for research. You look at SARS and MERS and the Black Plague that we had in the UK and all these different things that happened, and we got through it. Because we got through it once, we'll get through it again. Just having that mentality that we'll get through it. Okay, it might feel a bit uncomfortable, it might be a bit tough now, it might be causing a lot of pain, but we're going to get through it. And just having that first mentality and keeping that focus that when you do hear about what's going on in the world right now, whether someone brings it into that conversation, whether you see something on social media, is just focus, we'll get through it. Yeah, it's going to take some time, but we'll get through it. So Sabina says, I'm focusing, what you focus, Alette says, so thank you so much for being here. And she says, what you focus is what you see more of. It definitely is. If we're spending time researching what's going on right now, if we're spending time watching the news, we're going to see it more. There's a saying out there, and I've seen a lot of people post this, where focus goes, your energy flows. And it's true. And as says, play is more fun than work. Why do we want to work life and not play life? Exactly. And anything that we enjoy, we play. Anything we don't like, we call it work. Think of it, even if you're into gaming, video games, we play video games. Movies, you play a movie. You physically watch it, but you play a movie. Everything we enjoy has the word play attached to it. Everything we tend not to like, we call it work. It does as my parents do it. I try and guide them what to stay away from and what to focus on. Yeah, and they can at the start, if you're not into personal growth and sport, people become attached to it, and that's all they can focus on. And if that's all you're focusing on, you're not going to be able to adapt and change. And I've been called, I've travelled across to Colombia, I've been going out, and I've been still living my life. And people call me reckless or careless at times, but it's not about being reckless or careless. For me, I'm in Colombia, I've got to wear a mask, I keep my 2 meters distance. It's just common sense to me being, socially aware, respecting other people's boundaries. I mean, it's not new for me. I never really got within 2 meters of people generally in day-to-day life anyway. I'm not an affectionate or loving person, so it was quite easy for me to adapt. But we follow the easy principles and just live our life, and just it's not careless or reckless as long as we put the measures and we follow the guidelines. But we don't need to put attention to it. We don't need to focus on it. I see a lot of people questioning masks, a lot of people spending time and energy, wasting time and energy on whether or not masks are effective or they're not effective, or there's so many different views and perspectives being shared on what's good and what's not good. But the truth is, no one really knows. And by just having that focus and having that opinion one way or the other, you're wasting so much energy and time. So just respect the guidelines, crack on with it, and focus on what you need to do. So the fourth principle is being mindful of where you put your focus. And remember, you can create your own fun. You can create your own fun. So whatever restriction that you have right now, wherever you are in the world, whether you're in lockdown, whether you're in sin, whatever they want to call these little phrases, wherever you are, you can create your own fun. You have access to internet right now, you're online, you can connect with people, you can read books, you can play games, you can create your own fun. We spend so much time focused on what we can't do and not start to look at what we can do. My voice is echoing back. Is that for everybody? Is the sound not great? Let me know if anybody else can hear me, if the sound's okay. So we can create our own fun. It comes on where we put our focus. So not focusing on what we can't do, but focusing on what we can do. It also links back to play in life as well. Putting our focus on enjoying, moments, being, as Vidal mentioned earlier on, being in that present moment. Sound is good for me. Rosie Pearson is good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the four concepts again is number one is learning to let go. The more we hold on to things, the more we self-suffocate. The second principle is start to build on this and reflect on this concept of intellectual humility and having this openness to learn constantly and get into that flow of learning. The third principle is start to look at how life is supposed to be played and not worked, and how you can start to play a life and be in tune and in flow with it. The fourth is be mindful where you put your focus, and the fifth is be creative. Right now there is so much creativity going on in the world, and it's absolutely fantastic to see. And it was Deepak Chopra that said that uncertainty is the fertile ground for creativity, and it's so true. When things are uncertain, we're being forced to think differently, and thinking differently can create so many opportunities. So many opportunities. And if you think of that analogy that Deepak says, it's the unfertile ground. So you've got that ground, you plant one seed of creativity, that can shoot to so many plants of opportunity. So how are you being creative right now? That's a question. How are you being creative right now? And there's a good quote, actually, again, thinking of the AMCC summit that we're at, on leadership again. And we captured this and we posted it earlier in the week. But there's no learning in the comfort zone. It was a guy called David Peterson. So there's no learning in the comfort zone and no comfort in the learning zone. And for me, I think that's a perfect way to put how we feel right now, how different we can feel, just to understand that, if we're feeling uncomfortable, we're learning. If we're feeling comfortable, then we're not learning. You think about anything that you learn, there's no comfort in that. So how have you been creative? What have you created this year? So what are a few things, people changing their mindset, and growing and learn a lot. So Spina, you mentioned a lot of your learning, your personal development, which is fantastic. Priya, you mentioned the same. How else are people being creative? How else are people thinking differently? Adele says, "In my learning, step up and grown." And you have, Adele. It's been absolutely fantastic to see your journey over this past year, from the back end of 2019, being shy, to step up on camera, to now leading sessions, doing your own webinars. It's absolutely fantastic. Definitely stepped into the learning zone. And one of the things, I don't know if anybody else feels this, but do we believe that we can get comfort in discomfort? Can we find comfort in discomfort? Bill Jacobs says that talk in the seminar was amazing. It was for the EMCC from David Pearson, when he was talking about leadership, and there's no comfort in the learning zone. You went through loads of models. It was a great session. It's a shame we couldn't have got the recording, to be fair. There's a lot of good stuff from that. So can we find comfort in discomfort? Does anybody here feel comfortable being not in their comfort zone? It's like you almost enter a state of, I don't know, when you're in that state of flow and things are busy and life's moving and you're learning constantly every day, there's like a sense of, I don't know, joyful blissfulness in it. And although it might feel uncomfortable at first, you just come in and flow with it. Then you hit an obstacle and you're like, okay, it's an obstacle, we'll get over that. We'll get over it, we'll go around it, we'll change it, we'll go back a few steps and we'll change it. And life's going to throw obstacles at us, but it's just, it's to mention a quote from Bruce Lee again. He always used to teach people to be like water. And if you think of water, when you put water in a cup, it becomes a cup. When you put water in a vase, it becomes the vase. When you put water in whatever, it becomes the shape of whatever it's put into. And the reason why he used to teach people to be water is because that's how you can effectively change with change. Whatever it is you're put into, whatever circumstances you're thrown into, you can take the shape of that circumstance and make the most out of it. So Sabina says, enjoying quality time with family, learn new skills to see me to march next level so that I can impact the world for better, learning business, working on finding my purpose. That's absolutely fantastic, Sabina. Thank you for sharing that. Estella, I have problems with consistency. What problems do you have with consistency? Because consistency is a really good topic, and it's one that I actually like to talk about with people. And I can't remember who it was I was talking to about consistency. Because what we can do is we can mistake consistency and not get the full concept of how consistency moves us forward. So we need to be consistently moving forward, but we mustn't be so stuck on consistently trying to do the same thing. If it doesn't work for us, it doesn't work for us. But as long as we change it and we try and move forward, that's still consistency. Chris says, yes, if you've been in that space for a long time, you can become comfortable. You just move with it, you shape it. Big life obstacles, big things that I hit, It kind of builds you that adaptiveness and that confidence to be able to cope with it, whatever you're hit with. Adele says, I still do things that I'm uncomfortable with, but I'm moving to stretch zone and become comfortable. So Estella says committing to goals. So in terms of consistency, you struggle to commit to goals. So the question I have is, how important are those goals to you that you set? Set up specific steps. So one thing, we can get very attached to goal setting, and we can get very attached to plans and strategy. So, we can set a goal and we can say, right, I need to do this, and this to get there. It's good to have those plans, but you also need to develop in that plan a bit of a strategy. And the strategy side of a plan is you make it adaptable and flexible. So you don't become, it's just not just one way, kind of linear focus to get to that goal. You leave spaces where you can change. And you can be consistently working towards that goal. It doesn't mean you have to be following your plan. And I talked about this on a talk that we did with Aha last week, the week before. And I came to the understanding that I don't use personal growth, development, spirituality as a diet anymore. And what I mean by that is I fell into the trap of having to set myself specific routines and specific methods to try and keep my mind healthy, and developing a gratitude practice every morning, developing positive affirmations, journaling, and I couldn't be consistent with everything I want to do. But then I found out that I was only doing it because I felt like I should be doing it, and it wasn't actually giving me benefit. I'm in a place now where I can feel gratitude and I can be grateful for what I have and what I have in front of us, and I say it to myself without the need to write it in a diary every day. And there's certain times when I need personal growth or personal development tools, but I use it when I need it. So that's what I mean when I say I use it more than medicine. Is I've created myself a cabinet, a toolbox, however you want to visualize it, of personal development and mindfulness tools, and I can go there when I need it. If I'm feeling like negative talk is cropping into my mind, I can go into the tools that I have in terms of positive affirmations and ways of changing my perspective and ways of meditation. I can go and do that. But it's learning to catch it and diagnose what's going on for you mentally to get the tools quicker. The quicker you do that, the less effect it's going to have in the long run. Rather than constantly have to push myself to do something every day because I felt like it wasn't working. And then it was actually worse because I was feeling guilt, or I was feeling like, I was falling behind if I wasn't sticking to what I commit to. So it's important to have a plan, a structure, but always keep it adaptable, especially when you're committing to goals. But it depends on how you like to learn as a person. Some people really like set routines, and if that's you and you can stick to it, then that's perfect. But for me, I need to have that choice, the element of freedom. So, for example, to work out, I used to try and set myself to work out at the same time every day. And for me, that didn't work. I couldn't commit to working out at the same time every day. So I changed it. I want to work out every day, but I'll choose the time on the day that I'm working out based on what happens. So just having that plan, that structure, but being flexible with it. So Sabina says, during this pandemic, it was uncomfortable for every one of us, but with time, we adapted it. Yeah, we've all adapted, because the thing is, we can go into panic mode. When we're hit with something that we don't know, we don't understand, we can just go straight into panic mode. And we're searching for the answers, we're searching for understanding. So the final tip I want to leave today is actually sometimes when we try to understand something, or this desire and this need to understand is what can cause fear, anxiety. And we have to know what's going on. We have to get to an understanding. Because sometimes there just is no understanding. And the more we try and book in, the more we try to understand, the more we try to define things, the more fear and anxiety is going to cause, or stress. Sometimes you just got to accept things for the way they are at the minute, look at what we can control in our own lives, what we can create, how we can adapt and change, and just put that focus on us. So let go of that need to understand everything, because some things in life are meant not to be understood. And we actually covered a little bit of this in our book club session yesterday. So at the minute we're reading about the Tao Pu, which brings in the wisdom of Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching mixed with the fun side of Winnie the Pooh, which makes it a great book for learning and a bit of laughter too. And in there, I've lost my train of thought. I got too distracted by Winnie the Pooh. In there, we were talking about. Oh, my mind's gone. It's gone. Let me think. Give me a couple of seconds. It's been a long morning. Just had a 3-hour workshop and then jumped straight onto this. But Tao change. It's gone. It's gone. Sorry, guys. The idea and the point I was making has completely gone. Now I remember. It's uncomfortable, every one of us. They're wanting to understand. And the concept he was talking, he used a quick example of the question, why do birds navigate south or migrate south during the winter? And the scientific answer to that is instinct. So we try to attach and understand them. But the truth is, so if we're very scientifically orientated, we will try to understand, we'll try to put definitions to things, we'll try to really understand everything that's going on. But the truth is we don't. You know, the scientists might say that birds fly south because of instinct, but they don't know that. They've created that. They've come to their own understanding that they've defined. So some things in life you just don't understand, and by accepting that and seeing life how it is and how it's a flow, then that can really help navigate to change. So the 5 principles again, I'm just going to recap on the 5 principles. So Della said that this me too, plan but flexible, I achieve more this way, also less anxiety and stress if something unexpected comes up. Yep, exactly. So I really like this concept of goal setting. I don't want to go into too much goal setting, but that can help us how we can navigate through change. By one, being flexible, it reduces stress and anxiety too, and because we create so much expectation. You know, if we set ourselves a rigid plan that to do this, and this, we cause so many negative feelings if we don't achieve it or we don't do it. So just have a plan that this is what I'm going to do and be flexible with it. It makes us feel better as a person, and we're less likely to give up. We're more likely to push forward. Estella says, great point, we have to make friends with the fact that we will never know everything in life. Anxiety makes you feel like it does. You know, there's want for understanding, Estella, you're right. There's want for understanding, this desire to have everything defined, labelled, understood, is what causes anxiety and stress and fear. So the questions I was asking myself whenever I'm hit with something brand new is, okay, what is this? Okay, what does this mean for what am I going to change? What can I do differently? What's the laws? I don't want to break any laws, and that's it. So being that we live by everything, we're going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. And if we're, if you're spiritual, and I always think back to if anybody who studied Mahatma Gandhi, any of his books or looked at anything that he said, that I always go back, especially with everything in the pandemic and everything that's going on right now. And I didn't plan for this to come into the session today, but it's just something that's recapping. Is he was fearless. So he used to receive a number of death threats every day. The number of death threats he received was huge. And people used to always advise him and talk him against going out and doing speeches in case he was going to be killed, in case he was going to be murdered. And one thing that he said that really stood out to me is he said, who am I to decide who or not is going to take my life? For me, I'm going to live, I'm going to do my vision, I'm going to move forward, and if I get shot, then it's meant to be. It was his destiny to kill me, and it's my destiny to be killed in his hands. And when you think about that and what Sabina's saying, we live like everything's going to be okay. Now, if what's going to happen is going to happen, it shouldn't change our faith. It shouldn't change our belief. It's testing our beliefs. What's happening right now is testing what we practice, what we preach, what we believe to be true or not. You know, that we take risks every day when we cross roads, when we go out and contact people. So we can't live a life of fear. What is going to happen is going to happen. And, you know, stop trying to understand it and just move forward. Priya says, before I used to be upset when I get my goals accomplished, but now you used to get upset when you got your goals accomplished or you didn't, Priya. But now I've learned to accept, when you don't, sorry, the second has come through. When you don't get goals, but now I've learned to accept it will take more time. It will, and I'm not one for having goals or being attached to goals. So goals are good for milestones and signposts to help you understand and measure that you're on the right path, and it's good to look back to. But for me, I really think it's beneficial to have a vision, because a vision is automatically adaptable. And what I mean by vision, see how you want to make an impact to other people, feel it, visualize it. And then when things change, you can change your vision, you can change how it looks. And just use the goals to get there. But for me, it's have a vision and don't become attached to goals. It's really helped me. If you think about wisdom creators and you think about coaching minds and how we've evolved and how we've grown, that's all come through a vision and an adaptable vision. You know, we originally set up wisdom creators to just for a couple of us to get together and do 31 days of kindness and good deeds. And look what we've expanded to now. And if we stayed attached to actually now all this group is for is just to do good deeds and acts of service every March, every year, we wouldn't have made the impact to people we have right now. We've changed, we've adapted, we've changed our vision, and we've grew and grew and grew. So that's just a practical example of us all here living the vision together and changing with it. You know, this time last year, we weren't thinking about, we didn't have a vision on how we can train people up as certified coaches to help other people. It just grows and the vision adapts. Because the other thing is, when we set goals, we can actually limit ourselves as well. We can cap. And to take the words of Sadhguru, it's better to go for blissful failure in life rather than constipated success. So aim for blissful failure, so aim high and miss, and don't aim low and hit. You'll get so much more of it. Okay, I'm going to bring the session to a bit of a close. Unless anybody has any questions on anything that we've covered. Sorry, we've gone a bit on different topics. We've touched goal setting, we've touched personal development, mindsets, but just quickly go through those 5 points. One is start to understand that by trying to hold on to things, by not letting things go, we are causing our own self-suffocation, and we need to practice letting go of things and not walking around with everything that's keeping us heavy. The second thing is understanding the concept of intellectual humility and starting to open ourselves to an understanding that when something's different, no matter what our achievements, no matter what our growth, we need to think differently in this situation, in this new goal, in this new adapting. The third one is life is designed to be played. So have this perspective that life is here to be played, enjoyed, and not to be don't fight against that force. Don't work life. Enjoy it. Enjoy the simple things. The fourth is be mindful of where you put your focus. So even if people are trying to force your focus on the negative things, you can choose where you put your focus. The more you focus on it, the more it's going to grow. The more negativity, the more blocks you're going to create. So focus on the things that you can control. Focus on creating fun for yourself and enjoying the little things. One personal tip for me, one last personal tip for me is what keeps me so grounded at times whenever I feel like my mind's a bit too much, there's a lot going on, and I don't know whether I'm coming or going because there's that much being hit at me. I always remind myself that I'm happy with a coffee and a book. I'm happy with a coffee and a book, and sometimes I just need to take myself out for a coffee and a book. Whatever it is, but it doesn't have to be a coffee and book, whatever it is that's so simple, that doesn't cost much at all, keep to it and do it, and keep that in your mind that you can be happy with that. So if things are getting too busy, I will just take myself for a coffee and book just to bring myself and just grab myself a little bit more. And finally, the fifth tip is uncertainty is the fertile ground for creativity, which is the quote by Deepak Chopra. There's so much learning and growth right now. 2020 is not a year to write off. 2020 is not a bad year. 2020 is actually a great year because it's forcing us to be creative, to think differently, and to act differently, and it's bringing us together. So that's the 5 tips. Thank you all for being here, who's tuned in. If you're watching the replay, you have any questions, drop them in the comments box. But thank you, Adele, Priya, Frank, Sabina, and Estella for being here and tuning in, and everybody else who has put in some comments. I really appreciate your time and your energy, and I hope you have an amazing week ahead. I look forward to catching up with you on all the stuff that we've got going on. Speak to you all very soon. Bye.